Album number 9 tonight, and the lights are down low. This is a very sad, depressing album. Although, as the artist says who did it, there's beauty in sadness, there's beauty in melancholy, and that was his goal with this. This is Steven Wilson's Hand Cannot Erase. And if you haven't heard this one, you should. This is a concept album that kind of tells the story of Joyce Vincent. Joyce Vincent was a woman who was a young woman living in an apartment in England, and she passed away suddenly on her couch, half-wrapped Christmas presents around her. What was unique about this, though, was that she went undiscovered for 2 years. When they finally discovered her, she had decomposed so much that they actually needed dental records to identify her. Now, she had friends, she had family, but nobody missed her somehow for 2 years. In fact, when they came in, the television set was still on. Power hadn't been cut, even though she hadn't paid the bills. It was just a very odd story that inspired Steven Wilson to do this concept for this album, which came out in 2015. If you're interested in the actual story of Joyce Vincent, the true story, there was a movie called Dreams of a Life that was made about it. I watched the movie. It's really interesting. In any case, Steven Wilson has a main female character who isn't Joyce Vincent. In fact, the character in his CD doesn't actually die. But it follows the same concept of isolation, and how if you want to kind of go off the grid and isolate, you don't do it running away to the country or some small town. You actually do it in the big city, where you just disappear into the crowd. You live in an apartment building without knowing your neighbors, and you just kind of blend into the city. And that's the theme that goes through this album. It has a lot of great tracks, great music on it, but it is kind of sad, a lot of them. There's lots of different types of music on this too. There's sort of your electronica, Perfect Life. The title track, Hand Cannot Erase, is a straight ahead sort of rock. You've got your progressive 13-minute epic called Ancestral, and you've got your very quiet piano piece called Ascendant Huron, which finishes the album. And actually, at the beginning of the album, we have a song called First Regret, which also has sort of these nice piano themes that we hear again in Happy Returns near the end. And so great album here from 2015. There is one song on here, though, that is the saddest song I think I've ever heard in my entire life. And it's called Routine, and it's the 5th song in. And it's a story within the story. So we have our female character, and she's actually reading about this other woman. And the song is brilliantly written, incredible lyric, terribly sad. Talks about a mother who spends her day doing routines. She is washing the dishes, she's making the beds, she's doing the laundry, she's cleaning up her house, she's laying out the kids' clothes, she's making dinner, and she goes through all these routines that she does. And then it's only later in the song we learn, as she sits down at the table by herself, she picks up a newspaper and looks at the article where we find that her husband and 2 children were killed. And she is caught in this cycle every day where she cleans up the house, makes the bed, makes the meals, and then reads the paper, and then she just loses it. She runs through the house, destroying everything, ripping the sheets off the bed, smashing plates, throwing the food, goes through this whole thing, runs out of the house, and just screams at the top of her lungs in frustration. Goes back in, goes to sleep, wakes up the next morning, and starts the whole routine again. And so it's just terribly, terribly sad, depressing song. But again, there is beauty in it. It's very artistically done. It's a true artist, Steven Wilson is, and putting this together was unbelievable. I was fortunate enough to see the concert tour for this, and there is a performance from Los Angeles, the Wilton Theater, that is on YouTube, where you can see the concert where he did basically every song on this album but one. and did it in order, but in between put some older tracks in too. So it's an incredible concert. It's visually very stunning and musically very well played. So Steven Wilson, Hand Cannot Erase. If you haven't heard this one, you need to.